I go to the couch
Okay,
as
go to the
mom
couch.
would in the couch.
The couch. All right, we are live on YouTube, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Sharon and Robert. Yeah, I believe City of Hope is a hospital. You guys could explain it.
Well, hi everybody. We are back. We spent the weekend up at City of Hope, and Sharia's going to share a little bit about what happened while we were there. But Sharon, if you would pray us in here.
Well, I need the prayer because I'll forget some of the words. You have it?
Okay,
I'm here to be truly helpful. I'm here. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal.
thank you. By the way, you're crackling again. The same thing you had last week is happening again. With the
Oh, it is? Okay, I'll have to come back in. I'll come back in.
In the meantime, I'm going to get Gary.
You can get someone else and I'll be right in.
It might be how your thing is plugged in. Your microphone, maybe, but go out and come back and see.
No, it did this last week too.
Okay.
I can use my phone if it's bad, so I don't know what happens. Who knows?
For those who are here for the first time or watching on YouTube, losing my ability to speak clearly eliminated the possibility of sharing extemporaneously. The closest I come is to think on paper and share the papers. My books and essays are the result of that process. If you appreciate what you're hearing, please like and subscribe. Yes, today starts year 84. Thanks for all the birthday greetings. Donald, keep your hands off my birthday cake. Cupcake. That joke may be lost unless you read the essay, The Cupcake. And Bob will put a link in the chat.
Okay, sure.
Ready for me to do that?
Yeah, I had some fun today. Today was a crazy day because of the birthday, but I got ChatGPT to write a few silly limericks about the birthday, and Shari's going to read them.
As a writer, at 80, I started to write, which shocked me as much as it might. The words finally came, all crooked and lame, but hey, they showed up, so I'll write. I publish at speeds that astound, though typos are constantly found. My editor groans while AI fixes tones, yet somehow my books still get bound. My muse doesn't care about age. It just drags me right back to the page. The plot may be strange, the grammar deranged, but wisdom improves with the beige. Marriage thoughts. Our marriage is still running strong, though we've argued what decade we're on. We're creaky and slow, but affection still glows, and the laughter makes everything long. We're 80 and still holding hands, despite all the warranty demands. The squeaks and the snaps, the midday collapse, love works with whatever life plans. We once were romantic and slick. Now romance is measured by quick. We cuddle at night till joints get too tight, then adjust with a chiropractic flick. On new friends. At 80, I'm making new friends, which shows that the story still bends. We swap aches and pills, and overdue bills, but mostly we laugh at life's ends. Now, friends at this age is a feat, since remembering names isn't neat. I smile and I nod, say, hey, you, oh God, then pray they don't ask me to repeat. My newest friends know I'm not wise, but they like my unfiltered replies. I rant and I joke, self-deprecating old bloke, and somehow they don't seem surprised. So much for birthday humor. I've been told there are 2 times in life when you can get away with saying almost anything and nobody really cares. Before 8 and after 80. My first novel, The Trial, is now available as an audiobook. Better still, ask me for an access code for the audiobook for free. Email me at robert@dinojamesbooks.com.
Skip this.
While
Okay.
some may still be searching for an essay, I want to share 2 that were posted to Facebook recently and are getting comments and reactions from around the world. Into the Black Hole and The Guiltless Mind Cannot Suffer.
Robert, do I sound better now?
Oh, much better. Yeah. You want to read this one?
You know, in the morning on Thursdays, I never have this problem, and tell me because I can come in and go out. Yeah, I can read that, but you have to bring it
Okay.
up.
Yeah.
Hi, Sherry. Yeah, I love her
Hello.
name, Sherry. Happy birthday, Robert. We are a day apart.
Thank you.
I'll be 71 and you're what? How old?
I finished 83, starting 84.
Yeah, I want to sing happy birthday to you. The whole crowd could sing it. It would be so good.
Well, let's do that later. I
Okay.
don't want to get all choked up.
Ah, you're a sweetie. All right. Physics tells us that a black hole is the most unforgiving object in the universe. Its gravity is so extreme that not even light can escape. From the outside, it appears as absence, a tear in the fabric of space where information vanishes and certainty fails. It unsettles us because light is how we orient ourselves. If light cannot return, then nothing seems trustworthy. But what if that fear rests on a misunderstanding? What if light is not destroyed by a black hole, but gathered? From our position outside the event horizon, we see darkness because nothing reflects back. Physics did not describe what is experienced behind the boundary, only what cannot be observed from here. The equations remain intact, but meaning feels withheld. We call it a void because it gives us no reassurance. Yet fear has always lived at the edge of the unknown. We imagine falling into the black hole as erasure, stretching, crushing, endings, but those images come from the perspective of an observer who insists that experience only counts if it can be reported back. If nothing returns, then nothing meaningful happened. This assumption deserves questioning. Suppose all the light that cannot escape is not gone, but contained, not scattered, not extinguished, but held beyond outward motion. A place where light no longer travels because there's nowhere else to go. Darkness, not as emptiness, but as total saturation. From the outside, it looks black, but within, it may be something else entirely. This is where physics grows quiet and another language becomes useful. A Course in Miracles makes a statement that feels oddly at home here. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. If light is real, then it cannot be lost. If fear arises, it may be pointing not to danger, but to a boundary where our usual way of seeing stopped working. The Course repeatedly reminds us that what we fear is not annihilation, but the loss of the familiar story we use to explain ourselves. A black hole then becomes a powerful symbol, not of destruction, but of surrender. It marks the point where effort, analysis, and control fail to produce answers. The mind, accustomed to managing experience by shining light outward, suddenly finds no reflection that feels like danger, but it may also be an invitation. The Course offers another quiet correction. I need do nothing. This is not passivity. It is a release from the belief that understanding must always be achieved by effort. Entering the unknown does not require force, it requires willingness. A willingness to let go of the demand that meaning be returned in familiar forms. We encounter these black holes inwardly as well. Moments when identity collapses, when old beliefs no longer explain why we are experiencing, when certainty disappears and no comforting light comes back to reassure us. The ego calls this failure or loss. The Course calls it's an opportunity to remember what was never absent. From the outside, these these moments look like darkness. From within, they may be full beyond measure. The Course speaks often of light, but not as something that travels outward to illuminate objects. It describes light as awareness itself, not something you see, but what you see with. When that light no longer needs contrast, when it no longer needs objects to define it, it does not vanish, it rests. Perhaps this is why the unknown frightens us. Not because it is empty, but because it does not cooperate with our expectations. It does not return proof. It does not negotiate. It asks for trust rather than analysis. The Course speaks often of light, but not as perhaps that black hole seen this way is not cosmic threat, but a teacher. It stands at the edge of what can be known from the outside and quietly suggests that some forms of knowing require entry rather than observation. Physics leaves the interior undefined. The Course leaves it unthreatened. Between them is a shared implication. Light does not need to escape to be real. Truth does not need to return to be true. And fear, more often than not, marks the place where we are being asked to step beyond what we think light must look like in order to discover what it actually is. From the outside, we will always call it dark. From within, there may be nothing missing at all. I invite comments or questions. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm just sitting with this and waiting if somebody wants to talk or share or.
I don't see any hands up, so
I like that a black hole is an invitation. Thank you.
yeah, it's a pretty scary thing at first, but when you think about it, for most of us, when we first started studying the course, it was pretty scary too. Sharon, do you want to read the purpose line? You want to read this one?
Okay. As an extension.
No, hang on,
Okay.
hang on. This one.
Sorry.
Oops. Okay. This one is pretty long.
Okay.
A guiltless mind cannot suffer. There are thousands of spiritual systems in the world, each with its own language, practices, and promises. The modern mind is flooded with teachings that ask us to meditate a certain way, chant certain phrases, adopt certain dietary rules, or add a long list of spiritual tasks to a life already stretched thin. Against that backdrop, A Course in Miracles stands out as something unusual. It asks nothing of your body, nothing of your behavior, and almost nothing of your schedule. It asks only one thing, that you examine the nature of your mind. I'm going to interrupt for a second. Can you turn this off? Because everybody else can hear it. Thank you. All right. Early in the text, the Course offers a clarification that sets the tone for everything that follows. This is a course in mind training. If this is a course in mind training, then the problem is never out there in events, politics, bodies, or relationships. The problem is the lens through which we see it all. And if that is the problem, then the correction must also occur in the mind. The Course does not claim to introduce enlightenment. It does not claim to be the only path. It does not demand belief. Instead, it presents a hypothesis that the world we experience is created by the thoughts we hold, and that those thoughts can be changed. This single idea rearranges the entire human story. If my thoughts create the world I see, then my experience is not imposed from the outside. It is chosen from within. Pain, fear, and conflict are not punishments, but consequences of mistaken thinking. Peace, joy, and safety are not rewards, but consequences of corrected thinking. The workbook introduces this directly. My thoughts create the world I see. Paraphrased, and I have invented the world I see. The world we defend against, resist, and fight with is a mirror reflecting the beliefs we hold about ourselves and others. If I believe the world is dangerous, I will experience danger. If I believe people are selfish, I will read selfish motives everywhere. If I believe I am lacking, the world will present constant proof of lack. The Course is not asking us to deny war or injustice. It is asking us to notice how much of our suffering comes from interpretation rather than event. Here, the Course introduces one of its most penetrating insights. A guiltless mind cannot suffer. This is not offered as poetry or comfort. It is offered as metaphysics. All suffering, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, arises from guilt. That guilt may be conscious or unconscious, but it is always self-imposed. A mind that sees itself as guilty expects punishment. Expectation of punishment produces fear. Fear produces defenses. Defenses produce conflict, and conflict produces suffering. At this point, it is important to address a mistake nearly everyone makes when facing pain or difficulty. We ask the question, why me? That question seems innocent, but within the logic of the Course, it is the most damaging question we can ask, because it assigns the offense and the associated guilt directly to ourselves. Why me is a confession disguised as a question. It assumes I deserve what is happening. It assumes I am being singled out. It assumes I am being judged by a universe that keeps score. The Course counters this entire line of thinking by teaching that lessons are neutral, not personal. A lesson does not target an individual ego. A lesson is an opportunity to see without guilt. Lessons are never punishment for sin, because sin is not real. They are never retribution for guilt, because guilt is self-imposed. Lessons arise from perception, not from divine judgment. They present themselves so that guilt can be undone, not reinforced. When we ask, why me, we turn a neutral lesson into a personal indictment. The correction is simple. Lessons are not about me at all. They are about the undoing of guilt, not the confirming of it. This guilt is not moral guilt in the usual sense. It is metaphysical guilt arising from the belief that the mind has somehow separated from its source and now exists as an isolated, endangered self. The Course calls this the split mind. One part aligned with truth, the other part defending an identity that feels exiled and ashamed. In that inner conflict, guilt arises as a constant background condition. The mind then projects that guilt outward to avoid facing it inward, creating a world filled with enemies instead of brothers, threats instead of relationships, and bodies instead of minds. If this is true, then one of the Course's most shocking statements begins to make sense. God did not create a meaningless world, and God did not create the world you see. For many readers, this contradicts everything they have been taught about creation. But the meaning is precise. What God creates is perfect, eternal, guiltless, and unthreatened. The world of conflict, decay, and loss cannot be God's creation because it is neither eternal nor perfect. The workbook makes it even clearer. The world you see is an illusion of a world. God did not create it. If the world of bodies and conflict is not God's creation, then what is it? The Course's answer is consistent. It is a symbolic projection of a split mind trying to manage its own guilt. The world we see and the people in it are scapegoats for that guilt. We assign them the roles of victimizer, betrayer, competitor, threat, or savior. Anything to avoid looking inward at the guilt that created them. The I that God created is not guilty and never has been. The guilt we feel belongs to a self we made, not the self God created. The capital S, self, is untouched, uninjured, and incapable of sin. The small s, self, the ego, feels guilty because it believes it broke from God and now fears punishment. This guilt cannot be faced directly, so it is pushed outward in the form of a world filled with symbols that appear separate from us. The Course calls these symbols people, places, things, and situations, and none of them are reality. They are meaning carriers for a mind trying to prove that separation happened and guilt is justified. The Course captures this dynamic in one line. The world is false perception, not because nothing exists at the physical level, but because what we are seeing is not what is there. We are seeing symbols of fear, guilt, and attack. Because those symbols are not real, they can be forgiven. Forgiveness in this light is not moral correction. It is metaphysical recognition. Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. A forgiven world is not a corrected world. It is a recognized world. This brings us to the most recognized statement in the Course. To nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. If nothing real can be threatened, then guilt must belong to what is unreal, because guilt always feels threatened. If nothing unreal exists, then the symbols of guilt we fight with, bodies, grievances, injustices, have no true power. They cannot injure what is real, which means they cannot confirm guilt. Bob, I need you to do this again. Bob.
Oh, we got a machine here that's speaking.
And they can hear it, even if you can't.
Okay.
Many people first encounter the Course and assume it is proposing a psychological method for positive thinking. It is not. It is proposing that the world our senses report is not objective reality. It is the projection of internal beliefs, especially guilt. As long as our minds hold guilt, we will see a guilty world. As long as we believe in separation, we will feel lonely. As long as we believe we are sinful, we will expect punishment. Correct thinking does not change the world. It changes the mind that looks upon the world, and that shift changes the experience of living in it. This is why the Course eventually drops an idea that almost no one is ready for. Only the thoughts I think with God are real. A thought aligned with God contains no guilt because it contains no attack. It does not separate, condemn, or keep score. It does not expect punishment. A guiltless thought is a painless thought, and a guiltless mind is a mind incapable of suffering. Which brings us to another misunderstood statement in the text. I need do nothing. To a society trained to worship productivity, that sentence sounds like denial. But the Course is not saying nothing needs to be done in form. It is saying that doing is not what heals. Action is not what saves. Ritual is not what transforms. We do not earn our way into peace. We do not bargain our way out of suffering. The Course is teaching that nothing needs to be done to become what we already are. The only work is the undoing of guilt. The ego acts because it feels guilty. It tries to compensate, to atone, to fix, to control. The healed mind does not act to redeem itself. It acts from peace. In that state, action is natural, quiet, and free of conflict. Forgiveness in this light is not a virtue. It is sanity. If nothing real was threatened and nothing unreal occurred, what is there to punish? What is there to fear? At this point, a reasonable reader might ask, what does mind training actually involve? Do I ignore problems? Pretend that everything is fine? Blame myself for everything bad that happens? The Course teaches none of that. Mind training is not repression. It is the steady questioning of guilt-based thoughts. It is the rediscovery of choice. It is the recognition that guilt is optional, not inevitable. The Course is not asking us to feel guilty about having guilt. It is asking us to consider that guilt is the source of all suffering, and that guilt can be undone. To remove guilt is to remove fear, attack, and punishment. When the mind is guiltless, suffering has no foundation. A guiltless mind cannot suffer because there is nothing in it that expects harm. Once we see that guilt is self-imposed, a new kind of responsibility emerges. Not the heavy burden of I am to blame, but the lighter truth of I am free to choose again. The world no longer feels punitive. It feels merciful. If the mind created the problem, the mind can correct it. If the world I see is an effect of guilt, then the release of guilt releases the world. The final question is practical. How do we apply this? The Course answers indirectly. Every day offers opportunities to judge or to forgive, to defend or to include, to fear or to trust. We do not need a monastery or a meditation cushion. We need only awareness. When a grievance arises, we ask, is this guilt speaking? When a judgment forms, we ask, what am I trying to make guilty? When fear arises, we ask, what punishment am I expecting? When the answer fades into nowhere, we are already halfway home. The Course is not trying to change anyone's religion, lifestyle, politics, or identity. It offers no new gods and demands no obedience. It asks only whether you are willing to consider that suffering is not imposed upon you, but generated by guilt, and that guilt is neither deserved nor permanent. There is only one curriculum, fear or love. There is only one problem, guilt. There is only one solution, forgiveness. There is only one requirement, a little willingness. Everything else is optional. Everything else is already done. We truly need do nothing.
Thank you. And that was a little bit long, but I posted that about 3 or 4 days ago, and I have gotten over 100 comments from all around the world. And that's why I wanted to share that with you today. Yeah, Sharon, go ahead.
Yeah, it's done very well. I mean, everything it's saying is what we know from our book.
Right.
And I think the way were able to put it all together is it's just incredible. So yeah,
Well,
I enjoyed that. I mean, the truth is that it's easier to read your stuff sometimes than reading other things. Some people might say it's long-winded. I don't. I enjoyed. Everybody has a different reading style, but I think it's great.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Robert.
Yeah, before we go, I forgot what I was going to say. Rico, go ahead.
Good evening, family and friends. Thank you for allowing me to be in your presence. I send you love and life from my heart to yours. Happy birthday, Robert.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. For someone unfamiliar with ACIM or someone new like me to ACIM, I say masterpiece. Masterpiece. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that brings me to something I was about to say. People can read the course, and there's nothing better than the course. Okay, I'm not trying to improve upon it. I don't think Ken Wapnick was, but the one thing that Ken did, and one of the things that I think I'm doing, is taking bits and pieces of the course and helping people understand it in the context of what's going on right now. And one of the things that I did recently is I've started writing novels with course ideas. One of those novels was part 3 in the trilogy, and it's called The Manuscript. And the manuscript is taking and explaining in a way the lessons from the beginning of the workbook. And because today is the 13th, I'm going to share chapter 13 from the manuscript, and you'll recognize it right away. Can you read that from that? Okay, hang on. I gotta bring it down. And this is basically a conversation between Sam, his character, and his typewriter.
Mickey has her hand up.
Vicky, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to make a short comment about the last essay that um, I really liked the way that you put at the end, you condensed it at the end, that there is only one problem, and that is guilt. A lot of people want to get very long-winded about what the problem is, want to get very heady about it. It's, that that we believe that we separated and blah, blah, this and that. And when you boil it down to what is the single most, I just lost the word that I was going to say, explanation, for lack of a better word, for what goes on, that what that problem is, it's guilt. You know,
Yeah.
we could also boil it down to the word fear, but what are we fearing? We're fearing repercussions from what we thought we did that was bad or wrong. So I think you picked exactly the right word for that in saying that the problem is the guilt. So bravo.
Thank
Great
you.
job. Thank you.
Well, there's one thing though. The Course says that the only problem is the belief in separation.
Mhm.
Belief in separation is what started the whole guilt process.
Right, that engendered fear. And why do you have fear? Because you think you're going to be punished. And why do you think you're going to be punished? Because you think you did something wrong. And what's the result of thinking you did something wrong? Guilt.
Yeah. Steve, go ahead.
I just got back from a 7-day, very intensive, it felt like a spiritual boot camp led by Joe Dispenza. It cost $2,500. The hotel room was like $400. And I'm interested in hearing what he has to say because he shows different graphs. But there were people to my left with cancer and to my right with metastatic cancer and tumors and people looking for girlfriends, boyfriends, better jobs. And one of the things he did was, and it was like he had very evocative music and big screens. I'm talking about what you talked about is I need do nothing. Because what he was doing is saying, okay, breathe out. Now, contract your lower rear end and your stomach and your chest. Breathe in, hold, hold, hold. Squeeze into your pineal gland up into your head. And people got better because they wanted to, and there was an agreement of 1,400 people, which it's usually like 2,500 people. And it was, he repeatedly said, so if you don't get better or you don't manifest what you're looking for, it's just because you're not good at it. You got to keep trying. And I just took what I liked because it wasn't all bad. It was very nice to be able to, because a lot of times he said, just be nowhere. And so, no time, nowhere. But the amount of trying, it was a spiritual, what we used to in the old days call spiritual materialism. If you do this, you're going to get that if you get good at what I'm teaching you. And there were people that it was their 10th time. And so, in contrast, the idea, you don't force the kundalini. If you hold a cork under the water, what do you got to do for it to rise? You don't have to squeeze anything. You just let go of the cork. It'll come to the surface. In the same way, I love the course and what you wrote because it's talking about just relax and it makes a lot more sense. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Rafi, before you start, I just want to say one thing about what Steve said. If you think about it, when somebody says, well, if you want to do this or get this, you're going to do that better. Well, that's nothing more than a spiritual guilt trip. Yeah. So, Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to just check out on the subject of repercussion or punishment.
Okay.
Who's the punisher? Who's the questioner? Who's watching? Who's confronting? Who's the threat?
Well, we are.
Please let me finish.
Okay.
Who's the threat? Who's the enemy? They're just thoughts. There's nobody out there looking to get you. There's nobody out there looking to get me. There's nobody standing outside my house waiting for me to make a mistake so they can punish me. Those are just thoughts. If we give in to those thoughts, if we identify with those thoughts, we live with constant fear of punishment. From who? That's all I wanted to share.
That's good. Thank you, Matthew. You want to read this to me and then we'll be done for the day? Okay, this is chapter 13 from the manuscript. Start here.
He felt this one before he understood it. The fear did not announce itself as panic. It arrived quietly, as a vigilance he had long mistaken for intelligence, a readiness, a subtle scanning of the horizon for what might go wrong. A meaningless world engenders fear. Yes, he said under his breath, that tracks. The typewriter did not soften the statement. Fear is the logical response to a world without meaning. He nodded. If nothing meant anything, then nothing could be trusted. If events were random, then safety was fragile. If there was no coherence beneath experience, then vigilance was not optional. It was survival. So fear isn't irrational, he said. No, it is consistent with your premise. That mattered. He had spent years trying to argue with fear, calm it, reason with it, replace it with optimism. None of that had ever worked for long. Fear always returned. Quieter, perhaps, but persistent, because the premise had never changed. If the world is meaningless, he said, then anything can happen. Yes, and you must be ready for all of it. He felt the exhaustion in that sentence. Ready for loss, ready for disappointment, ready for betrayal, ready for endings with no explanation. Fear that was not dramatic. It was practical. It prepared him for a world that offered no guarantees. That's why it never rests, he said, why it's always planning. The typewriter responded. Fear is always working overtime. He smiled faintly. So when I feel anxious, he said, it's not because something is wrong with me. No, it is because you have drawn a terrifying map of reality. He sat with that image, a map where meaning was absent, where order was accidental, where love was temporary, where safety was conditional. Anyone living in that world would be afraid. Then fear isn't the enemy, he said slowly. The keys pressed firmly. Fear is a consequence, not a cause. That shifted something. He had been treating fear as the problem, trying to suppress it, transcend it, shame it into silence. But fear was downstream. It flowed naturally from the way he saw the world. Change the source, and the flow would change. So how do I get rid of fear? He asked. The typewriter did not answer the question as asked. You do not get rid of it. He frowned. Then what? You question the world that requires it. That felt right. Fear only made sense in a world without meaning, in a world where nothing could be relied upon, in a world where the self stood alone, responsible for its own protection. If that world isn't true, he said, fear loses its job. The keys responded simply, yes. He felt something ease in his chest. Fear had been loyal, tireless, overprotective. It had tried to keep him safe in a reality it believed was dangerous. He could see now that fear was not malicious. It was obedient. What happens to fear when the premise changes? He asked. The typewriter paused, then answered gently. It relaxes because it is no longer needed. He imagined that. Fear setting down its tools, unclenching, no longer scanning for threats that were never actually present. But if I let go of fear, he said, won't I become careless? The response came calmly. Carelessness is fear's caricature of trust. That made him smile. Trust was not recklessness. It was not blindness. It was simply not assuming danger as the default. So fear isn't telling me the truth, he said. It's telling me what makes sense given how I see. Yes, it speaks for the world you believe in. He looked down at the page. A meaningless world engenders fear. It was no longer a warning. It was an explanation. Fear was not evidence of danger. It was evidence of belief, evidence that he had concluded the world was empty of meaning, coherence, or care. And given that belief, fear had been the only reasonable response. The typewriter typed one final line. When fear is seen as logical, you stop obeying it and begin questioning what made it necessary. The keys fell silent. He sat quietly. Fear was still there, faint but familiar. It had not vanished. But for the first time, it did not feel authoritative. It felt like a messenger from a world he was no longer certain was real. And that uncertainty, surprisingly, felt like the beginning of peace.
Thank you. And this approach is the way I've taken to the first 50 lessons in the workbook. And it's written not for course students. It's written for people that would not normally ever pick up A Course in Miracles. Yes, Steve.
The other day, with the help of ChatGPT, in my mind, like King Arthur knighted his soldiers. He gets on his knees, the king. I am the king, and I actually I wondered about this fearful part of me that's been talking. And what I did was I ignited him and I saw him in a way that was so clear. And I thanked him for trying to keep me safe my whole life. And I said, thank you. And I almost started to cry because uh, he's not, he was just doing what he only knew because he was seeing a meaningless world. He, he was very loyal. And so I thanked him. And actually, there were some functions like learning how to cross the street and watch out. Don't do this, get out. It's lightning out, go inside. So I thanked him in a way that made me much more compassionate and aware. So now whenever I see someone who my little my little knight was screaming about, I go, oh, don't worry now. So it was very a wonderful, deep, uh, kind of visual idea of knighting him, not rejecting him, but compassionately accepting him, thanking him. He wanted to be heard, not dismissed, not the way I used to just say, oh, that's monkey mind, let him pass, but actually thanking him. And he is around the table now. Uh, I visualize a big conference table, and I'm the sovereign king, and he had his use, and he has his use. And so I almost can cry when I think about it because he was just trying to help me, keep me safe. I recognized it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Rafi?
Yeah, I just wanted to address this business about fear one more time. We make a big deal out of it, but when you come right down to it, it's just another feeling. And feelings are not facts, they're feelings, they're just energy. They come up to leave. If you welcome the fear, if you allow it to be there and welcome it, and then say, could I let this go? Just by saying yes, when you answer the question, the process completes itself and the fear will go because it's energy. If we judge it as good or bad, then we're giving into egoity and that not going to help. That fear goes. That doesn't mean that there isn't more there, but that particular fear that you were dealing with at the time will go. And it's not a it's a very simple process, and like anything else, the more you do it, the easier it gets. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that that particular segment that we read, that's not written for course people. That's written for people that would never pick up the book in the first place, but it introduces them to ideas from the course. Anyway, I'm sorry.
New ways of thinking.
Yeah, as Sheree says, another way of looking at things. So I'm pretty much done. Then you went, oh, Sharon, go ahead.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted us to sing or not.
Happy
Oh,
birthday to you.
Happy
Happy birthday
birthday,
to you. Happy birthday, dear
dear
Ma.
Richard.
Happy birthday to you and many more.
oh God,
Yeah.
that many more parts scares me. Thank you all very much, and I will see you guys again Thursday morning. Not on my time, but on somebody else's.
Thanks
Okay,
you
guys.
guys so much. I love you all. Remember that uh, um, Wayne is still coming in on Wednesday to do the lesson, and
Oh,
it will be at, I think I told him 10 o'clock Eastern. Maybe I told him 12 o'clock Eastern. I'll see when he shows up. Anyway, thanks you guys. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Cherie. I hope everything is going well with you. And I am going to close us out. And happy birthday, Robert. And
thank you.
tomorrow, happy birthday, Sharon. Happy
Happy
birthday, Miss
birthday,
Sharon.
Sharon.
Yeah, happy birthday, Sharon.